This contains 10,000 times more energy than normal force metal.
But that means...
It would take a ton of force metal to make this. And only one place has that much metal. The Force Metal Refinement Plant.
Nothing to do here. Let's get moving.
Welcome back to Mega Man X Command Mission. So, last time was another intermission where I fought Reflexion, and yeah, that was not an easy fight, but now we're off to the Melda Force Metal Plant. So, I feel like we probably should have seen this one coming. Like, look, they keep operating in Giga City. So if there's one metal refinement plant, we should know, like, this feels so obvious. Anyway, Chapter 8, the ultimate weapon. That's right, they're introducing Shadow the Hedgehog. Right after they introduced Paper Mario, I've been waiting so long for him. Supposed to have him 5 chapters ago. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like with a name like the Force Metal Refinement Plant, we probably should have known this is where they were operating. And really, I don't think anything here is going to be so leveled that I couldn't take it on a little earlier. But to be fair, I did do Eternal Forest early. That's kind of gonna skew a lot of things that I do for the rest of the game.
That can't be true, Scarface. I saw it with my own eyes. They were sucked into the quicksand.
Yes, but Ferrum, they hit bedrock underneath.
That X.
Unfortunately, it's true, Ferrum. But this is as far as they will get. And I assure you I will put a stop to them.
Scarface, wait. Leave this to me. I'll stop them this time.
Alright, so we are in, you know, kind of the usual factory setting. Here's Meldaki. So yeah, it's pretty similar to most other areas in the game in terms of looks. Like, obviously it looks a little bit different, but it's... thematically, all the areas are a little similar, but they did also admit that, yeah, they probably could have done a bit more to vary areas.
This is some heavy security.
Damn, they got a window? What are we gonna do about this?
Godil, do you read?
Yes. What is it, X?
I sent an image for analysis. Well?
Are you pranking me? I can't tell what this is.
Hard to say with just this shot.
Look, I'm a genius, but I can't just magically know a thing. Next you're going to ask me to zoom and enhance on one of these. Okay, I promise you interruptions won't be that frequent throughout this chapter. But anyway, looks of the area aside, I guess today, gonna be talking a little bit about, this game's quality overall. So, I gotta say, I do actually kinda like this chapter. I think Chapter 8 is pretty good, mostly for this bit right here, just... Our goal is to go around looking for all these windows so we can get peeks at whatever it is we're supposed to be looking at. We'll figure out what it's gotta be at the end. But, yeah. Is this a battle where I'm gonna do anything in particular that I need to mention? No, it's just wolves. Are we killing the other one? No, I don't think we are. The blue wolf is the new one. And he's got a good bit of text that I think will come up later, but... We're killing him first because I recognized he's the new guy, his stats will be better. Not that it matters. Anyway though, right, so... I think by now, back in Chapter 5, I was, you know, saying like, hey, we're only partway through the game, you can't tell everything about it from here. And, you know, now we're a few chapters later, and we're not at the end still, but I feel like by now you've probably noticed a bit of, don't want to say downward trend, because that implies that I, like, severely dislike this game or something, or I've been bored out of my skull, or whatever. And no, that's not true. I'm still enjoying myself, but I also feel like we hit Ulthat Factory, and that was, like, a really engaging chapter in terms of story, but also a lot in terms of gameplay as well. It's one of the only ones where I actually kind of want to do over of it, just because I think I could do better. But after that, we had the mines, which were kind of subpar, because we had some okay story bits. I think the plot was alright, but gameplay-wise, it was so-so. Hey, remember how we upgraded our dash so we could break through rocks? Remember how that hasn't been relevant recently? Anyway, though, yeah, Chapter 7, Block Transmissions, yeah, we finally got around to dealing with a problem that's been plaguing us for the entire game. They have been preventing us from communicating with Colonel Redips. But I don't know, both in terms of plot and in terms of, like, the actual things we were doing, it's not my favorite chapter. It's kind of the reverse of Chapter 7, honestly, or Chapter 6, rather. Like, Chapter 6, I like the story, mostly. I don't know, I feel like it's a little earlier for Shadow to die, but whatever. There's also Spider Sacrifice. But yeah, the area itself, I wasn't too fond of the mines. And yeah, the last one, kind of a forgettable story. It properly introduces Farum. We haven't seen her in a while. She did appear at the start, but we've not really gotten a glimpse of her personality. We were introduced to Bodis properly as well. Honestly, in general, a lot of character introductions, for real, but other than that, it was kind of just a so-so chapter, and the area itself is at least a little more engaging. Not my favorite. The underground area wasn't my favorite, but the laser puzzle was neat. It was a little more engaging. But yeah, I feel like, definitely, this is a game that, I think you can kind of feel some time and or budget constraints towards the end. I feel like they could have done more for the areas. Like, in terms of aesthetics, I already mentioned in the interview, they were like, yeah, we probably could have put more thought into, like, the areas themselves, but we kind of thought out the bosses and whatnot, and we kind of locked in on that instead. You know, they sort of had the direction they were going, so, you know, we couldn't really get, like, proper, cool, creative areas like you'd see in the X platformers. But yeah, there's a bit of that, but also, I feel like they don't really do as much to engage the player as much. Again, previous chapter was okay. That wasn't too bad. Yeah, some of these later chapters feel a little bit bare bones. Now that I'm on the other side of them.
Here goes.
But I think the... oh, right, yeah, so that's the line I wanted to show off. Wolfoid is playing for keeps. This Wolfoid is done fucking around. But yeah, I feel like... The reason I like this chapter is they actually set up a decent mystery overall. We'll get to what it actually is in the next episode, because we're going to be seeing what it is at the end. But I think they actually managed to integrate some kind of plotline into this chapter, you know, a little mini-story to follow along. I think this is absolutely the kind of game where it's more about the individual plot lines per chapter rather than like the overarching plot. There's a bit of glue, but you're mostly here to meet new characters like Massimo or Marino, and Cinnamon, she's the only other new one. Well, I mean, to be fair, there was also Spider, but he did eventually die, so I'm just thinking about the characters in the party. But yeah, like, I think this game is at its best when it does either manage to introduce some really good enemies, like the ones in Ulfat Factory, that were actually pretty challenging, or when it actually integrates the plot pretty well. This chapter, I feel like, is pretty similar to the first chapter of the game, where we were scaling a tower, and we had to investigate, like, okay, what's going on here? There's apparently some rebellion, and we learn about Epsilon, and we kind of get introduced to, you know, the names of the bosses that we've come to fight throughout the game. Look, that's pretty cool. And you'll notice, Chapter 1 is pretty bare bones, but of course, it's also the beginning of the game, so you're getting used to the mechanics, you're being introduced to, you know, new enemies, everything's fresh and new at that point, so the fact that there's not, like, any huge gimmicks for the chapter itself is not too big. And then, yeah, Chapter 2 felt pretty long. That might have been in part because X was alone. But you did also have that portion of the game where you had to stop the tower from self-destructing. Chapter 3, a little less gimmickless, but it did have, like, the fake enemies. You had a little maze in there. But yeah, I think after Chapter 5, everything started to feel shorter and shorter. Now, in part, may I remind you, it is a little bit because I went to Eternal Forest, and I've been doing the optional things that have absolutely been giving me quite the advantage overall in terms of stats and items I have, and, you know, if you want to challenge yourself, maybe don't do that stuff so early, and maybe don't get the super good weapons or sub-weapons. You know, stuff like that, but you probably have to self-impose the challenge a little bit, because it's pretty easy to get overpowered in this game. Which, that I don't mind. Honestly, I do like a little bit of difficulty in games, because difficulty is, you know, a decent way to get you engaged at first. It provides a challenge and a way to actually use mechanics to overcome those challenges. But I'm not the kind of person who needs the challenge to remain for the entire game. If you've been following along Persona 5 Royal, I have gotten to the point where I can just run over enemies in Mementos, and I am just very giddy about that. So yeah, while I absolutely do think that, you know, obviously, difficulty is made to be engaging to some extent, but I personally can live without it, so I don't see that as a problem with this game so much.
What do you think, Odile?
Oh no, it can't be!
What? What is it?
It's a missile!
A missile?
They're using Supra Force Metal for the warhead of that missile!
What'll happen if it explodes?
The energy will be released instantaneously, affecting every Reploid in the Northern Hemisphere!
Affect them how?
The interference emitted by Force Metal will create a mass of Mavericks!
What?
X, you must stop that missile from firing! Remove the metal from the warhead!
Roger.
Right, so yeah, that is the mystery of the chapter solved. Already. I mean, I've cut out a bunch of fights, of course, but it's still only been 13 minutes. Chapter's not over, of course, they've got more to go, but, like, that to me is kind of the big part of this chapter, is wondering what the heck is going on with the Rebellion and whatever they're making here, and I have to admit, when I was playing, I thought, oh, well, it's probably like a big laser powered by Force Metal or something, right? Nope, it's a missile designed to fry everybody's brain. More on that next time, though, because we've completed the first half of Chapter 8, which means we've got the second half, which is also kinda short, next time on Mega Man X Command Mission. And I do mean other half, this is gonna be a two-part chapter.